Hey yo, what is up guys? Today I'm coming in with a banger of a video. This video is actually going to be about the first time I did LSD. Now, this story will always have like a special place in my heart simply because of just how memorable it was, and same with like two other LSD trips. Like I'll probably never forget those, and those definitely will be in a video coming up. So without further ado, let's get right into it. So, this story takes place, I want to say, in my junior year of high school. I was just getting into drugs. I just found some, friends who happened to know some people who knew some people. And that's just unfortunately how it is when you're in high school and you just get taxed. Like, I'm just gonna keep it real. The tax is crazy. The knowledge tax is absolutely insane as a high schooler. Looking back on it, every every drug I brought, I swear, until I was like a year or two out of high school, I overpaid for, and it is crazy just to think back on that and and reflect on that. Like, what I paid 120 for my first 10 strip. That's crazy. That's crazy. By the end of when I was like doing drugs, I could get a 10 strip for $50. It is $5 a tab. Insane. But like I said, without further ado, let's get right into the story. So, like I said, this takes place, I want to say, junior year of high school. I was just, actually, I was just, the only reason that like I have such a good like date on it is because I was just starting to go into an alternative school for basically people who didn't want to go to college. Instead, you could go there and take like welding or automotive or and get a jump start on an actual career rather than just sitting in a classroom learning ABC. Like, I personally loved it. It was completely different from like actual school. But while attending, I met some people, right? I met some people, and we're gonna call we're gonna call him Brandon. I met Brandon, right? And Brandon said he knew how to order things off the dark web, the deep web, whatever you want to call it. I've never personally been on there myself, could never figure it out despite trying a couple of times. But he said that he could get stuff off the deep web. And he was saying this for like, I want to say a couple weeks. And like nobody took him serious because every time he said it, he was like, I'll get you whatever you want. Just give me the money. And you know how that goes. You know what I mean? Nah, you know how that goes. Giving the money up front. I mean, there's no guarantee. But eventually, he just brought some himself because he couldn't get nobody to front him the money, right? So he buys some. I come to school, right? I come to school one day, and right before school, there was like lunch or breakfast. I mean, there was breakfast, and everybody could mingle around and kind of do their own thing. And then at a certain time, they would open up the school because like how it worked was is I don't know, some weirdos and like the grade before us or whatever, but um you weren't allowed to go in the school. Like, you could go in the lunchroom, but you weren't allowed to actually go in the hallways and all that until a certain point. So they would have literal like um slip signs, right? Like, don't slip, don't fall signs blocking. And then I swear a teacher, like a security guard at every end of like the hallway, because how it worked was you came out of the lunchroom, right? And the hallway went straight or it took a left. That was it. That was it. Right? That was it. Granted, if you went straight, it was a very long hallway. It took like a left and all that. Like, it was that led to the principals. If you took a left, that led like to a dead end, but you could go upstairs and like loop around that way. So, like I said, we couldn't go in the hallways, but I think I got way too much in depth for something that really doesn't even matter to this story. But anyways, appreciate you for listening. Anyways, Brandon comes up to me, right? And he's like, "Hey man, I just got some acid in, right?" And at this point in my life, like I wasn't doing drugs like that. Drugs were still very much a I'm not looking for them. It's just kind of if they're at, the function or someone offers them, I'm gladly partaking. Like, not saying no, definitely not saying no. But anyways, Brandon comes up to me and he's like, "Hey man, I can get you some acid, right? I just want $10 a pop." Right? And I'm like, "Oh, okay, okay. This is easy. This is like W." Keep in mind, I'm broke. I am broke. Right? I think I only had like $15. But nonetheless, I end up scrounging some money together and I buy 4 tabs. Now, one of those tabs was my friend, and the other one was also for a friend. My bad. One of those tabs was for a friend, and the other tab was for a friend. So really, I only got 2 tabs, right? But it worked out for me because I did get one friend to pay 15, and the other to pay 15. So if you see what you get my lingo. I got a tab for free, and I only paid 10 for the one. So I got 2 tabs. The other 2 people only got one apiece, right? And he basically says, "Meet me tomorrow in the bathroom when the teachers like open the hallway. Like first thing, go to the bathroom and I'll be in there, right?" So the day goes by, nothing happens, nothing eventful. I wake up the next morning ecstatic, right? Because I'm going like, who goes to school and it just has drugs waiting for them? Like that is the best school day I can imagine, right? So, so I go to school, and like he said, very like immediately, first thing in the morning, I go and I look for him in the bathroom. He is not there. At this point, I'm starting to get let down. Like I said, I didn't have to give him the money like he originally wanted up front, but I'm still let down. Like to me, I'm like, this whole elaborate story. You're not even here. This is crazy. I kid you not. Like while this is all going down in my head, like, wow, what a L, like L man's like, man, not gonna do nothing fun today. Like my whole day was ruined because like all night I had been looking forward to that. As I'm thinking that, he walks in the bathroom. I mean, like, there's no better feeling than when I saw that man walk in the bathroom. The day was officially like ready to go. The day was hot. I mean, I don't know how to describe it. I mean, I was just ecstatic, right? And he hands me this book, and I give him the money, and I'm like, wait, why? Like, why am I being handed like an actual book, like a reading book, like Harry Potter, right? He says, turn the page. I don't know the actual page, but he says something along the lines of, turn to page 62, right? Don't do it right now, though, right? He lets me keep the book for the whole period because how the periods worked is your main, like I said, you could go there for automotive or welding. Like, let's say I went for welding. The welding class would be like the first 2 to 3 hours of the day. And then after lunch, you would have like 20-minute like math class, English, you know what I mean? So he lets me keep the book for the remainder of like the 2 hours. Anyways, I go back into my like classroom and I sit down and I turn this like I turn to page 64, right? And right in the crease or the spine of the book, I guess you would call it, there's 4 tabs stuck together like they hadn't been ripped apart yet, like just a strip pushed very like perfectly like inserted right in the spine of the book so it doesn't fall out, it stays. I am ecstatic, right? I take these out, I throw them in a little bag, or I think I folded up a piece of paper and just threw them in that. Anyways, I throw them in my bag. Nothing else happens eventful for the day, right? School ends. That's it, right? I go home. I had worked that night. And I'm not like my parents were really strict. Like if it was a school night, you're not going out past 6 or 7 on a school night. You get what I'm saying? So I had worked that night. I ended up calling off work, but still telling my parents that I had to go to work, so that way I could have like until 10 o'clock, 8, 11 o'clock at night to do this LSD. Um, like I said, nothing eventful happens. I go home, I get ready for work, quote unquote, right? Instead, I have my friend come, and we're going to call this friend Bryce. Bryce is one of the people who brought a tab, right? So the deal kind of was, because he was like sketched out about it. I could say that I was always one to kind of jump like head first into things and not really think it through, whether that be to it's been like whether that was a good thing or a bad thing, basically. So I jump right in. He was hesitant. So the kind of like unspoken deal we had was he's going to work on his car all night and I will quote unquote help him while also trying the LSD. So I go to work, right? He picks me up like around the block, right? We end up going to his garage. And if I remember correctly, we were trying to take the we were trying to do open headers on his Mustang, like classical, like high school, uh, activities right there. Trying to do open headers, just literally ruining the car. But nonetheless, we show up and I take these tabs, right? And I remember letting this thing, I did not want to like chew it or move it around or like destroy it in any way because like I didn't really do any research. All I knew is that you were supposed to let it sit on your tongue and not really mess with it, at least for like 20 to 30 minutes, right? I swear this tab sat on my tongue for about an hour because I just didn't touch it. I tried to let as little spit get on it as possible. I basically segregated it in my mouth. That way it wouldn't get ruined, despite that literally being the purpose, is to get absorbed. And anyways, I had this thing in my mouth for like 40 minutes and then I eventually just swallow it. And I'm starting to think I got like scammed because everything I read online, like obviously I did a little bit of research, just to know like how to do it and like how long it's going to take and how long it's going to last, like, basic research. I end up swallowing it and I don't feel anything. So I'm starting to think I got robbed, right? Because I'm not feeling anything. And then I remember it just hit me out of nowhere. And I've never had this feeling except for 2 times. And it was the only 2 times that it was ordered off the internet. And then the other times I did it were from a plug. Never had this feeling anytime I got it from someone that actually lived around me. My inner leg started not hurting, but almost like someone kicked it, right? Like right under, right under my groin, like someone just kicked me real hard there, or like I pulled something, and like it kind of hurt, like it was uncomfortable, but at the same time I was uncontrollably like laughing, like it was so funny to me that like my inner leg hurt. And like I said, it didn't hurt, it just like it hurt, but it felt good. Like I can't describe it because at the time I was sitting there like but I'm laughing at it like it's so funny to me. Like it felt weirdest feeling. Like I said, I've only felt that twice. So I end up like losing it, right? I'm leaning on his hood of his car, like grabbing my inner leg, like saying, it hurts, like not actually like in pain, but just like laughing and being like, ha ha ha, this hurts. Like, you know what I mean? Like very like just like animated and like bubbly, I guess you could say. Um so after this, right, I'm laughing and I'm just laughing. And at this point, I'm becoming like not delusional, but to the point where I'm not helping anymore with the car. Nothing is happening. As a matter of fact, I'm being such like a goober that it's making my friend stop working on the car and almost like make him feel like he's missing out. You get what I'm saying? So at a certain point, he doesn't even want to work on the car. So we end up, I'm pretty sure he did end up completing it, or he put it back together. I'm not sure, but we ended up leaving in his car, right? And I don't really have anything to say here because I kind of don't remember. All I know is that we drove to Wendy's. We were going to get some food. Now, if you've ever done acid, LSD, food and acid do not go together. Like they taste it. It's not even taste. Actually, no, I would say it's taste. It has no taste. It tastes um, like nothing. Like there's no joy to be had in eating when you're tripping. The food tastes bland. Like don't get me wrong, there's flavor. Like if you put ketchup on my mouth, I'll know it's ketchup. Like it, if I eat like a hamburger and close my eyes, I'll know it's a hamburger. But it has no flavor whatsoever, right? But nonetheless, we don't know that, so we end up going, right? He's at this point he's just a trip sitter. Full blown 100% trip sitter who's low key like learning and seeing if this would be something he's interested in cuz like I said he had a tab. We go to this McDonald's and I had been sitting in a dark car, right? So I had almost no visuals. I remember pulling up to this Wendy's, right? And I got out of the car and I looked up at the Wendy's sign, and the Wendy's sign had almost like a million ants. Like every pixel of light was like an ant moving within the Wendy's sign. Like that's really hard to describe, but it just made me die laughing, right? This whole trip was just like almost uncontrollable laughter from me, right? Nonetheless, we end up going inside. My friend buys me a McChicken, right? Or not a McChicken, a chicken BLT, right? W, better than a McChicken, by the way. Just got to put that out there. Sorry to the haters, right? He gets like a baked potato with some cheese and all that, and like a baconator or something, right? Good meal, right? We go to sit down. We go to sit down at this table, and I don't know what your Wendy's carpet looks like, right? I don't know if all the Wendy's have the same carpet, right? But the carpet was just like this dotted, like white, brown, and like brownish red carpet that was dotted, right? And it looked like ants trying to eat themselves. Anyways, as I said, the floor was like eating itself. Like it was a million bugs going like in each other and creating like a bigger just mountain of moving little dots, right? And at this point, I'm off my rocker. I'm off my rocker in the middle of Wendy's at like 10 o'clock at night, just laughing, right? Just like I'm off my marble, like I'm off my marbles. My marbles are gone, right? I'm just in the middle of McDonald's, like laughing like a crazy person at the floor, right? And I specifically remember an old couple looking at me, right? Like they were like eyeballing me. Like what is wrong with this kid, right? And so even I pick up on that, and my friend Bryce started to pick up on that, right? So I go to the bathroom, right? And if you've ever tripped before, let me just say you can get lost in your own face, if you know what I mean. I go to the bathroom and I look in the mirror, and all I could see was like my face, like not melting away, but like almost melting into itself and like reforming. I know that's very hard to like explain, but like imagine a bunch of holes that sink and then refill, or like a bunch of holes that spread out and then like refill as they spread out. Like that's what was happening to my face, along with I kept seeing these swirls, right? Like a cinnamon roll, right? Like literally a cinnamon roll type swirl, just floating in the air, like in the corners of my, like in the corner of my eyes, wherever I looked, I'd see like a cinnamon swirl. You know what I mean? Like embedded in the air, not on anything, not on the wall, not like it wasn't something that was already there. Like my brain was, like I don't even know how to explain it. Basically, there were cinnamon rolls in the air that I could see. All right. So I'm in the bathroom for about, it felt like a minute or two to me, but my friend had to come knock on the door, right? The Wendy's door, because he had already ate his food. So I can honestly never tell you like how long I was in there or how long I was just staring at myself in the mirror. I specifically remember rotating my hand a lot, like looking at my palm and then looking at the back and then looking at my palm. That was very fascinating. But nonetheless, he knocks on the door, right? Scares like the ever living hell out of me, right? I specifically remember like shooting around and being like, "Who is that?" Like very shakily, like very shakily. And he's like, "It's me, blah blah blah. Let's go. I'm done. Are you ready?" Right? He's like, "I gotta go home." Right? Funny part, which I will explain later. he's like, I gotta go home. So he ends up taking me to another friend's. At this point in my like life, because my parents were so strict, I had friends that I could go to like pretty much whenever, and they knew, like they all knew what my like situation was, so they were all cool with letting me hang out basically till I was off work, you know, because it would be weird if I said I had to go to work and then every day someone, you know, I got like kicked out of a friend's house and had to go back at different times. Like that would just never. So they were always cool. Like that's the one thing I can say about my friends. They were always like cool and let me get out of like situations. Um, but anyways, I end up going to my friend's house. It's a good name for him. Let me get a drink. I end up going to my friend's house, and we will call him Gavin. Right? I have a very short duration here because it was like 10 o'clock at this point, and I had to be home at around 11. Right? That's when I was supposed to be off. I was off at 10, but usually I walked home. So I was just going to be like, hey, I didn't get off till like 10:15, and then it took me like 45 minutes to walk home. That type of that was the story. That was the story that I was going to use, right? So he ends up dropping me at Gavin's house, dropping me off at Gavin's house. This is when like the trip, like it was all fine and dandy till I got to Gavin's house. Then the trip just like got weird, right? So I go in Gavin's house. It's dark, right? Because it's nighttime. Like the lights are off all downstairs. The only light on is his upstairs light. He lived with his grandpa, which funny story. Like just completely off topic. His grandpa, which was like 68, like dude was old. Like dude looked like he was ready to kick rocks any day. Was low key a pimp who dated like a fucking 30-year-old crackhead. I just think that's so funny to this day. Like this dude's grandpa, not even his dad or his mom, this dude's grandpa is like 68 with a peacemaker dating a 20-year, like a 20 to 30-year old like crackhead, like does heroin, confirmed, right? Like I just always thought that was funny, like real living the pimp life, right? Anyways, we go upstairs, right? And I always would like bring a pair of work clothes, right, with me. That way I didn't have to. Cause who wants to walk around in work clothes? Like when you're at your like friend's house or you guys are doing something. Like who wants to pull up in a Little Caesars shirt? Cause that's where I worked at the time. I worked at Little Caesars, right? By the way, one of my favorite jobs. Talk about the coolest managers, and the job is so laid back. I'm talking, I just took giant tongs and scooped pizza out of fucking pans. That was the easiest job. Slapped a sticker on a box, shoved it in the fucking the hot fridge, I guess you'd call it, and went on about my day. Didn't have to do shit there. I loved it. But anyways, we go upstairs, right? And I take a at this point I am starting to come down, right? I'd probably taken my tabs at around like 4 or 5. I want to say like 4:30, and all night I'd been tripping, right, till like 11, right? So I am starting to come down. The peak is by far gone, right? I'm still tripping, but I'm chill, right? And this is the first time I had hit weed during the trip. He says, "Hey man, do you want some weed? Like I heard that'll mellow you out, right?" Wrong. Wrong. I hit this weed and I just get thrown back into absolute zoot land. The visuals are back, the headspace is back. I'm like damn near at the peak again. Like there's no difference between this and the peak. Crazy. I just remember that so vividly. I hit it, right? Also, by the way, it felt so good in my lungs. Like I don't know what it is in smoking and LSD or acid or whatever you want to call it. I don't know what it is in smoking, but it feels so good to smoke while you're like doing psychs. Like I just don't know how to explain it. It feels so good. But I hit this weed, right? I took like the fattest hit, did not cough. Did not cough. One thing about me is I will be coughing if I hit some weed. A pen, a dab. It doesn't matter. I'd probably cough off an edible if you gave it to me. I'm going to be coughing, right? But I took the fattest rip and didn't cough, right? Like I said, it felt good. But now I'm like tripping again, like full on tripping, and I have to be home in an hour. Probably about 30 minutes at this point. I have to be home 45 minutes, somewhere around there. Right? Because I remember I got there, pretty much took the hit, had a conversation, then had to leave, right? But as I said, as I touched on before, I always swapped clothes. I would wear the work clothes leaving my house, change into like my casual clothes, and then change back in the work clothes before I came home. It's at the point where I have to start walking home now. So I'm getting prepared to change into my work clothes, right? And the way it worked was you walk upstairs, there's like a little main room with a door to the left and a door to the right, right? Other than that, they kind of just use that main room when you first walk up the steps as storage, right? So I just walk out, right? Keep in mind, 60-year-old grandpa pimp, he's asleep, passed out, maybe fucking dead downstairs, who knows, right? So I just step outside and close his door. So I'm in the main room, right? As I do this, he says, "Don't let the darkness get you," right? I don't know. I've never been scared of the dark. Never. I've never been scared of the dark. I don't know what it was. Him saying that. I remember this so vividly. This is the weirdest I've ever felt and like the scaredest I've ever felt. He says, "Don't let the darkness get you," or something along those lines, right? Or "Don't let the boogeyman get you," right? Keep in mind, his whole house was dark. The only light on was in his room. I open the door, right? I step out into this little like storage room at the top of the steps, right? The other door, his sister's room, his sister's door is closed. I step out. I took off my shirt, and I don't know, I lifted up my shirt. By the time it was off my head, the amount of like thoughts and of like paranoia that had ran through my mind in just that split second, dude, I couldn't change. I couldn't, it wasn't happening. The darkness got me. I'm now scared of the darkness. Like, I remember that, dude. I took my shirt off, had like 8 million thoughts about this scary monster that doesn't exist and that was completely made up, and came right back in his room with the light. And I'm not playing with you. I straight looked at this man like a scared dog and was like, "Can you please turn on the light out there?" I swear to God, that to this day is like the funniest thing to me because I'm not scared of the dark and I never have been. But that just like goes to show you how powerful that drug is. Like, it completely overrided like any sense of like clearly there's no boogeyman out here. Like, clearly there's nothing in the dark. In my head, I was about to get eaten. Something was about to grab me up and I was gonna die, right? So he turns on the light. I get changed. That pretty much like went, like came and went. Like, it was real quick. I didn't really think much of it once I got the light on. I just wanted the light on. So I say, like, at this point, I'm dressed. I say my goodbyes, right? I'm walking home. This is just where the weird, like, I don't even know what happened here. And to this day, I don't know what happened here, right? But I'm walking, right? And I'm just walking. I'd say it was about a 15-minute walk from his house to my house. Not that long, not that far, right? But I'm doing this walk, right? And I get to this overpass, which is like half of my town. Like, not half, but it is a big overpass, right? And I'm walking underneath of it. And I don't know what happened. I go blank, right? Blank. I'm not playing with you, completely blank. Don't remember a thing. I pop up. I like come to consciousness again 3 streets down with a fat lip. I don't know what happened. I still to this day do not know what happened between. I literally remember stepping off a curb. Like, to be real, I might have just completely ate shit. And then I was so fucking high, I like blocked it out. Like, that bad memory, we don't need that being associated with the first time. Delete that type deal. But all I remember is stepping off a curb, lights out, and then I appear like at the end of the overpass, like, because literally coming from his house, you'd start on one end, and then to get to mine, you'd have to literally get to the other end. So, like, midway through, I step off a curb, and then just blank. And then right as I get to the end, I remember stepping back on a sidewalk, and it was like I nothing happened. But even in that moment where like I stepped back on the sidewalk, I was like, wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. What just happened? Because to me, and I could be like this could be like completely made up in my head and just like a part of the trip and something that I've just like never misread, or but like to me it feels like I walked 3 blocks in space, like I was not there. But in all reality, I could have just genuinely took a step, forgot that I took the step, walked across the street, and then somehow thought that I was 3 streets down and just like teleported. But in my head, it genuinely feels like I just teleported. I took a step off the curb. Next thing you know, I stepped back on a curb, but I specifically knew that I was like all the way at the middle of the overpass, not like the end. So like that to this day confuses me. Nonetheless, I get home, right? And this is like the end of the story, but I have like a little funny like tidbit to tell you. And then but this is what it like to this day I don't know what happened here, but I walk in, right? And I'm still high. Like I said, the weed, that little weed hit definitely like jump started the trip again. Like I'm high, I am fried, I am tripping again like 100%. I walk inside, right? And the way it was is you walk inside living room, dining room, kitchen, or it was living room, upstairs, dining room, kitchen, right? Instead of just going to the living room, the upstairs, right? I walk in the living room, right? And my living room was built to where like you walk in and you take a left to actually get in the living room. Like it was a L shaped, right? So the living room was on the left, and straight ahead of you would have been the dining room. And then up against the wall that separates the quote unquote living room would have been the stairs. But the living room went so far back technically that like half of it wasn't a living room, but half of it was. Like you probably get somebody out there knows what I mean by this. But I walk inside and I walk to the table, and he's like, how is work? And I like get in this like mind trap, like this weird, like this is the first time it had happened the whole trip. I get in this mind trap where I think I was like so worried about what to say to him. I like stopped at the table, looked at the table, like looked at something on the table, right? And then thought to myself like what I was gonna say. Like work is good, but I ended up just saying work is good. Like work was good. I mean, work was good. I ended up saying it like 3 times, super quietly, like in a thought loop, like in a weird thought loop, right? And obviously, my dad like immediately stands up and is like, "What did you say?" Because he's not like he has no idea what's going on. He just genuinely like thought I was being quiet. So he said, "What did you say?" And I said, oh, and like that made me snap out of it, him getting up, because at that point I think like I just overcame it and was like, okay, if I don't lock the fuck in right now, I'm gonna expose myself, which is gonna be really crazy. So he stands up, walks past me, and says, "What did you say?" And I said, "Oh, work was good." And then I just like darted upstairs, right? That is the end of my story, right? I have a funny little tidbit. I wish I had this on recording still, right? Bryce, the guy who was initially trip sitting me, right, goes home, and like he pops the tab pretty much as soon as he gets home. So when he got home, I'm still at Gavin's, right? I'm still over there like hitting the bong with him, freaking out about the darkness, right? He goes home, takes the tab. So by the time I get home, he was either feeling it or on his come up to the peak, right? But he calls me, right? No. He don't call me. He called me afterwards. But he sends me a video. This video will forever be like the funniest thing I've ever seen. He's underneath his blanket, like whispering, like not whispering, but like whispering to himself, right? And he's like, "It's cold in here," right? And he was like saying he was an Indian living in a wigwam or like a tiki hut, and like the tiki hut wasn't like good enough and it was cold. But keep in mind, he's just under this white blanket that's like pressed up against his head, pushed, and his hair's all messed up, right? And it was just the funniest thing. His eyes are ripped wide open, right? And he's just like, it's cold, man. It's cold, man. This little tiki hut ain't doing it. Like, but like, I can't even replicate how he sounded or how he said it, because like the way he said it and sounded, you could tell this man was off his rocker, right? Same as me. But hey, that's the story about the first time I did LSD or acid, whatever you want to call it. If you like this video, drop a like or sub, man. Helps me out. You guys have a good day.